Your phone starts with 1 in the top left. Your calculator starts with 7. Same 10 digits, completely opposite layouts, and it was not an accident. The reason comes down to two industries that evolved separately, a Bell Labs study from the 1950s, and a piece of machinery that was already older than your grandparents before the telephone even existed. Let's talk about why the numbers on your phone are upside down from your calculator. To understand this, you have to go back to a world before phones existed at all. The word telephone itself only entered English in the 1870s, built from Greek roots, tele, meaning far, and phone, meaning voice or sound. That Greek word phone traces back even further, through Latin into Old French, before landing in English. By 1878, Americans were already shortening it to just phone. The Des Moines Register used the colloquial form in May of that year, which tells you how fast the technology had embedded itself in daily life. But here's the thing. While the telephone was brand new, mechanical adding machines were not. Accountants and bookkeepers had been punching numbers into mechanical calculators since the 1820s. The earliest documented record of mechanical calculating devices designed for commercial arithmetic use dates to 1828. By the time Alexander Graham Bell filed his patent in 1876, adding machines were already a mature, established technology with deeply trained users who had spent decades learning a specific layout. That history is what makes this story interesting. In 1955, Bell Telephone Laboratories in Murray Hill, New Jersey, faced a specific engineering problem. They were designing the touch-tone telephone, a system that would let callers dial using tones instead of a rotary dial. But before they could build the keypad, they needed to answer a practical question. Where do the numbers go? This was not a trivial decision. Bell Labs researcher John Carlin led a series of human factor studies, what we would now call ergonomics or UX research, to figure out which keypad arrangement helped people dial the most accurately and the most quickly. Carlin and his team tested multiple configurations throughout the late 1950s. They tested 2 rows, 3 rows, circular arrangements, and several different orderings of the digits 1 through 9. What they found, published internally and later referenced in telecommunications engineering literature, was that a 3x3 grid with 1 in the upper left and 9 in the lower right, reading left to right, top to bottom, like a page of English text, produced the fewest dialing errors. It matched how English speakers naturally scan information. Bell Labs officially adopted this layout when they introduced touch-tone service to the public in 1963. Now, here is where the other half of the story begins. Adding machines and mechanical calculators had standardized on a completely different layout decades earlier. On those machines, the highest numbers sat at the top and the lowest at the bottom. The reason was partly mechanical. Early adding machines were designed so that operators who used 7, 8, and 9 most frequently in commercial arithmetic could reach the most used keys with the least physical effort. Over time, as companies like Comptometer built machines throughout the early 20th century, that high numbers on top layout became the universal standard for the industry. By the 1950s, when Bell Labs was running their studies, trained accounting professionals had spent years, sometimes entire careers, on that inverted layout. Their muscle memory was locked in. Bell Labs actually considered matching the calculator layout, but their own research showed it did not improve accuracy for general telephone users. The average person picking up a phone had no adding machine training. For them, top-down sequential order worked better. So Bell Labs chose the layout that served untrained users, and the two industries went in permanently opposite directions. The result was 2 standards, coexisting side by side, each rational within its own context, each completely at odds with the other. The common story you will see repeated online is that Bell Labs deliberately flipped the layout to slow down touch-tone dialing. The claim goes that early telephone switching equipment could not process tones fast enough if people dialed too quickly, so Bell Labs put the numbers in an unfamiliar order to force users to slow down. That story is almost certainly false, and the reason we can say that with confidence is Carlin's own research. The Bell Labs studies were genuinely trying to minimize errors and maximize efficiency. Slowing users down intentionally would have undermined the entire commercial case for touch-tone, which Bell was trying to sell as faster and more convenient than rotary dialing. Deliberately handicapping your own product's main selling point would have been a strange business decision. The more boring and more accurate answer is that Bell Labs and the calculator industry simply never coordinated. They were solving different problems for different users in different decades. The phone keypad was designed fresh, from research for general consumers. The calculator keypad evolved from mechanical constraints and professional training. Neither group looked at the other and made a deliberate choice to diverge. They just did, and then both layouts became so entrenched that changing either one became unthinkable. Look around at the number pads in your daily life and you will see the split playing out everywhere. ATM machines use the phone layout, 1 at the top, because they were designed for general consumers unfamiliar with accounting machines. Computer numeric keypads use the calculator layout, 7 at the top, because they were built by the computing industry, which inherited its conventions from business machines and accounting hardware. Elevator buttons often use yet a third approach, counting upward from the bottom, because in that context, numbers represent floors, and going up physically corresponds to going up numerically. The phone versus calculator split has never been resolved because neither side is wrong. Both layouts are usable. Both have hundreds of millions of trained users. Any attempt to standardize them now would just create a different generation of relearning problems. The word phone itself, that 1878 shortening from the Des Moines Register, now refers to a device most people use more as a computer than as a telephone. But the keypad that came from Bell Labs research in New Jersey in the late 1950s is still there, still starting with 1 at the top, still running opposite to the calculator sitting next to it on your desk. The Greek root phone, meaning voice or sound, shows up across English in ways people rarely connect. Phonetics, the study of speech sounds. Symphony, from sim plus phone, meaning voices sounding together. Microphone, a small voice amplifier. Saxophone, named after Adolphe Sax, who invented it in the 1840s in Brussels, carries the Greek phone in its name because it is fundamentally a sound-producing instrument. The prefix tele, meaning far or distant, runs its own parallel track. Television, telegram, telepathy, telescope, all built on the same Greek root that Bell attached to phone when naming his invention. Bell himself was working in Boston when he filed his telephone patent in February 1876, and the name he chose was a compound that any educated person of the time would have been able to parse immediately from classical language training. By 1920, English had phone book. By 1906, phone booth. The phone bill appears in documented use shortly after. The word moved from technical vocabulary to colloquial shorthand to completely transparent everyday language within a single generation. That is an unusually fast integration for a technology word, and it reflects how completely and quickly the telephone reshaped the experience of daily life. The calculator's number layout has no single named inventor, no patent filing, no moment of decision. It emerged from mechanical necessity and professional convention and then calcified into standard. The phone layout has a named lab, a named researcher, a specific decade, and a documented rationale. One came from tradition, one came from science. And your fingers learned both without ever being told they were contradicting each other. If this kind of thing, the hidden decisions,